Welcome to True Crime Kin Channel, where we dive into real stories that shake the core of human relationships. Today's case is one of shocking betrayal, twisted emotions, and a tragic ending that no one saw coming. So let's begin. Tiffany Michael, a restless mother, begins a secret affair with her daughter Sarah's boyfriend, Mark Miller. When Sarah discovers the shocking betrayal, the once perfect family is torn apart, leading to a tragic death that changes their lives forever. The Michaels were the kind of family that people in their small town of Maplewood admired. Tiffany Michael, a striking woman in her early 40s, was known for her beauty, charm, and an almost magnetic charisma. Her husband Thomas, a successful architect, provided a comfortable life for his family. They had 2 children, Sarah, their 18-year-old daughter, and Jake, their 15-year-old son. Sarah was the apple of her mother's eye. With her mother's beauty and her father's intelligence, she was the pride of the Michael family. She was about to graduate high school and had already been accepted into a prestigious university. The future seemed bright for Sarah, who was dating a handsome and charismatic young man named Mark Miller. Mark was 20 years old, working part-time while attending a local community college. He was everything Sarah could have wished for: kind, caring, and deeply in love with her. On the surface, everything appeared perfect, but beneath the surface, there were cracks. Tiffany had begun to feel the weight of her years and the strain of her marriage. Thomas, while a good provider, had grown distant, focusing more on his work and less on their relationship. Tiffany felt invisible, her once vibrant spirit dulled by years of routine. She craved attention, excitement, and the thrill of being desired again. The affair begins. It started innocently enough. Tiffany and Mark often found themselves alone during Mark's visits to the Michael house. Sarah was frequently busy with schoolwork or out with friends, leaving Mark to wait for her at home. Tiffany enjoyed Mark's company. He was young, handsome, and full of life. They would chat various things: his studies, his plans for the future, even mundane topics like the weather. But as the weeks passed, their conversations grew more personal, more intimate. Tiffany began to notice the way Mark looked at her. A look she hadn't seen in years. It was a look of admiration, of desire. She knew it was wrong, but she couldn't help but feel flattered. For Mark, Tiffany was an enigma, a woman who exuded confidence and sophistication. Something that Sarah, despite her beauty, did not possess. While Sarah was out late studying for exams, Tiffany and Mark found themselves alone again. They were watching a movie, sitting closer than they usually did. The air was thick with unspoken tension. When Mark reached out to hold Tiffany's hand, she didn't pull away. Instead, she looked into his eyes and saw the same longing she felt inside. The first kiss was tentative, almost hesitant, but it quickly escalated into something more passionate, something forbidden. From that moment on, they were consumed by their affair. They met in secret, stealing moments whenever they could. The thrill of the forbidden only heightened their desire for each other. Tiffany knew it was wrong, that she was betraying not only her husband but also her daughter, yet she couldn't stop herself. Mark, too, was torn between his feelings for Sarah and the intense attraction he felt toward Tiffany. The unraveling, as the weeks turned into months, the affair grew more intense, and with it came the inevitable complications. Tiffany began to act differently around her family. She was more distant, distracted, and often irritable. Sarah noticed the change in her mother but dismissed it as stress or fatigue. However, she couldn't ignore the growing distance between her and Mark. He had become more secretive, often canceling plans at the last minute or showing up late with flimsy excuses. Sarah grew, but she never imagined the truth. She assumed Mark was seeing someone else, perhaps another girl his age. She confided in her best friend Lily, who urged her to confront him. But Sarah wasn't ready to face the possibility of losing him. She loved Mark and wanted to believe that whatever was happening, they could work it out. Tiffany, on the other hand, was consumed by guilt. The affair that had once thrilled her was now a source of constant anxiety. She feared that someone would find out, that her family would be destroyed. But she couldn't bring herself to end it. She was addicted to the way Mark made her feel alive, desired, and important. The tension in the house was palpable. Thomas, oblivious to the affair, sensed that something was wrong, but attributed it to the stress of work and family life. He tried to reconnect with Tiffany, planning a weekend getaway for just the two of them. But Tiffany made excuse, saying she couldn't leave the kids alone. The truth came to light in the most unexpected way. One afternoon, Sarah returned home earlier than expected. She had been feeling uneasy all day and decided to skip her last class. As she entered the house, she heard voices coming from upstairs. Her heart sank as she recognized Mark's voice. But it was what she heard next that shattered her world. "Tiffany, we can't keep doing this. What if Sarah finds out?" Sarah stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, her mind racing to comprehend what she had just heard. She felt sick to her stomach, her hands trembling as she slowly ascended the stairs. She pushed open the door to her mother's bedroom and saw them, Tiffany and Mark, locked in an embrace. The room went silent as they realized they had been caught. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes wide with shock and betrayal. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Tiffany tried to explain, to apologize, but Sarah couldn't hear her. She turned and fled the house, tears streaming down her face. Mark ran after her, but Sarah was too fast, too hurt. She drove away, not knowing where she was going, only wanting to escape the pain, the consequences. The days that followed were a blur of agony and anger. Sarah refused to speak to her mother or Mark. She stayed. Lily, who did her best to comfort her, but nothing could ease the pain of betrayal. Sarah felt as though her entire world had been torn apart. The two people she loved most had betrayed her in the worst possible way. Thomas was devastated when he found out. He couldn't believe that his wife had been unfaithful, let alone with their daughter's boyfriend. He confronted Tiffany, demanding to know how long the affair had been going on. When she admitted the truth, Thomas was furious. He couldn't look at her without feeling a surge of anger and disgust. The family was torn apart. Tiffany moved out, staying with a friend while Thomas filed for divorce. Sarah cut all ties with Mark, who was wrecked with guilt and regret. He tried to reach out to her to apologize, but she wanted nothing to do with him. But the worst was yet to come. The tragic end, unable to cope guilt and the destruction he had caused. Mark fell into a deep depression. He dropped out of school, quit his job, and isolated himself from everyone. His friends tried to help, but Mark pushed them away, consumed by self-loathing and despair. One night, unable to bear the pain any longer, Mark made a decision that would haunt everyone involved. He drove to a secluded spot outside of town, a place where he and Sarah had often gone to be alone. He took his own life, leaving behind a note that simply read, "I'm sorry." When the news reached Sarah, she was inconsolable. She blamed herself for Mark's death, believing that if she had forgiven him, he might still be alive. Tiffany was devastated, consumed by guilt and sorrow. She had lost her family, her daughter's love, and now, the young man she had cared for deeply, even if in a twisted, wrong way. Thomas, too, was deeply affected. Though he had been angry at Mark, he never wished him harm. He blamed Tiffany for the affair, but he also knew that the situation was far more complex than he could understand. The entire town was shaken by the tragedy, and the Michaels became the subject of gossip and pity. In the months that followed, the Michael family struggled to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. Tiffany racked with sought therapy and tried to rebuild her life. But the weight of what she had done was too much to bear. She eventually moved to another town hoping to start over. But the scars of the past were always with her. Sarah, with the help of her father and friends, slowly began to heal. She graduated from high school and went on to college, but the pain of betrayal and loss never fully left her. She often wondered what her life would have been like if she had never come home early that day, if she had never discovered the truth. But those were questions that would never have answers. Thomas remained in Maplewood, trying to provide a sense of stability for Sarah and Jake. He never remarried. The pain of betrayal too deep to allow himself to trust again. He focused his work and his children trying to move forward, but the shadow of the past loomed large over their lives, a legacy of pain. The affair between Tiffany and Mark had far-reaching consequences, not just for the Michael family, but for everyone involved. The tragedy served as a harsh reminder of the destructive power of secrets and lies. It was a story that would be whispered about in Maplewood for years to come, a cautionary tale of love gone wrong and the devastating impact of betrayal for Sarah. The scars of that time would never fully heal. She would go on to build a life for herself, but the memory of Mark and the betrayal of her mother would always be with her, a painful reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of broken promises. In the end, the Michael family story was one of tragedy, but also of survival. They were forever changed by the events that had unfolded, but they found a way to continue to live with the pain and to try to find some semblance of peace in a world that had been so cruelly shattered. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like this video for more true crime video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Take care and see you in the next video.